verse number 70. And in the verse number 70 of the 18th chapter, Bhagavan, we are doing the Gudhartha Deepika, the commentary of Madhusudana Saraswati. So he sort of first, in order to motivate the people who study the Bhagavad Gita and disseminate the secrets of it, the message of it, he praised them. And now he also praised the students of Bhagavad Gita. Adhyesyate chaya imam dharmyam sambadam avayoho jnanaya gyena tenaham ishtahasyam itime matihi. So there are two kinds of students. Some people actually seriously study it and they get the meaning of it, and therefore they are doing swadhyaya. They enormously benefit from it. But there could be students who do not fully understand it. Maybe they chant it, maybe they just study it. They also benefit. So both of them is kind of the ones who understand it, they get sakshat jnana. They enormously benefit. The ones who do not understand 100%, they at least have the abhyasa. They will have some curiosity. They stay connected. Some of the things they might grasp. And in course of time, paramparaya, in a gradual process, they will ultimately establish themselves in the jnana nishta. Now, in the remaining two verses, Bhagavan sort of mentions two things. He's also going to praise the ones who maybe are not good students, but they're just listening to this satsanga. That also is enormously beneficial. Prabhaktuhu adhetuscha phalam uktva srotur idanim phalam kathayati. So the people who are the speakers, the acharyas who is actually speaking, and the ones who study, both of them enormously benefit from it. Now he is also praising the ones who listen to this discussion. Idanim phalam kathayati. Shraddhavananasuyascha shruniyad apiyo naraha sopi muktah subhan lokan prapnuyat punya karmana. Shraddhavan anasuyascha. So first thing, like for example, for everyone, he had mentioned there are certain qualifications. You can give it to ones who have some sort of vairagya, they have some tapas, and then they have shraddha, and they also have medha. Then they are the greatest students of Bhagavad Gita. The way he had given these kind of things, here similarly saying, one critical thing is shraddha. There is some real, sincere desire. So he's not listening to Bhagavad Gita to find faults, but to actually benefit from it. And anasuyasya, he is not finding faults. So somebody is chanting Bhagavad Gita. We go and sit and we start asking questions. No, he's not properly chanting. He had not studied so well. No, not that sort of an attitude, but some sort of a shunyadapi yo naraha, the human being, whosoever does it. Sopi muktaha, he also gets liberation. Subhan lokan prapniyat, and he gets that subha loka. That means he goes to a higher level of spiritual existence, higher level of spiritual consciousness. Or he goes to Swarga Loka or Brahma Loka. Vijastuti Paraka, Prapniyat Punya Karmanam. And who is the guy who can do it like this? The way, if you do some Punya Karma, like Aswamedha Yajna or some Agnishtoma Yajna, the phala you will get, the result you get thereof, the same result you get by listening to the Leela, the advice of Bhagavan. Because he has to keep everybody in his purview. It's not the brightest students who will study and then disseminate it. Of course, they are very good students. But there could be students who are not bright enough, but they're very sincere listeners. And Bhagavan is now glorifying the ones who are very sincere listeners. They may not get the meaning 100%, but Bhagavan has a special attention for the ones who carefully listen to it. Yo naraha kaschidapi anyasya uchchi japata karunikasya sakasa shraddhavan shraddha yuktaha. So, there's any person, he may not be a great student, he may not be a great acharya, but anybody who just listens to it. Uchchi japata, whether you are chanting it aloud or in a very low voice, and there is a compassionate guy who's doing it, but he gets this sakasa shraddhavan shraddha yuktaha, and he's very compassionate, he sits there and he's getting benefit thereof. This particular guy who is doing the chanting, we also need to be thankful to him. There are certain temples, or there may be certain community halls where people chant some chapters of Bhagavad Gita. There are quite a few people who may not be very literate, may not be very educated. So these are the people who, this is also a kind of service. By chanting, you sort of give that benefit to others to sort of listen and benefit from this whole satsang. Tatha kim artham ayam uchchaihi japati asambandhava japati. And there are certain people who find faults. ऐसे क्यों पढ़ रहा है? Why is he chanting so loud? और असंबंधम, ठीक से नहीं, उसका संगति नहीं है, ऐसे जपति क्यों वो कर रहा है ऐसे? इति दोष दृष्टिया असूयया. So you have this kind of fault finding nature. If you do it like this, then you don't get the benefit. But the Shraddhavan doesn't have these kind of weaknesses. Rahito anasuyascha. So he doesn't have this asuya, therefore he's asuya rahita. Kevalam shruniyad imam grantham. He just needs to peacefully listen to it. Enormous amount of spiritual benefit accrues to him. Api sabdad किमुता अर्थ ज्ञानवान, जो सुनकर अर्थ का भी अनुशीलन कर लेता है, उसके बारे में क्या कहना? कई मूर्ति का न्याय. So if even the average student benefits from God's words, what to talk about the intelligent student who carefully listens and who can even make sense of what is being said. कुछ लोग होते हैं जो समझते हैं, कुछ लोग नहीं समझते हैं, लेकिन उनमें बहुत श्रद्धा होता है और उसी से वो लोग आनंद को प्राप्त करते हैं. सोपि केवल अक्षर मात्र श्रोतातपि मुक्तः. वो सिर्फ जो शब्द का उच्चारण उसी को सुन के he gets liberated. And there are enormous stories about bhakti where if you go to Jagannath temple, so there will be some places where they do Bhagavad Patha in the evening. You go to Tirupati, they do some chantings. Similarly in Sringeri. So there are different places where there is a particular session in Sringeri in the evening. Every day they do the chanting from Krishna Yajurveda and from the Rudri Patha. So a lot of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people sit and listen. All of them absolutely don't understand, but they do benefit by watching the puja and by listening to this, beautiful chanting with very high vibration. And they get a lot of spiritual energy by sitting in that particular place where these mantras are being chanted. Chanting of mantra, even if you play it on your cell phone or on your computer, early morning, when you play those nice chantings, that also fills the air with a lot of sacred energy, spiritual energy. Papehi subhan prasastan lokan punya karmanam aswamedadikritam papniyat. जितने पाप से वो मुक्त हो जाते हैं और पुण्य कर्म से जो फल मिलना है उन्हें मिल जाता है. So there are some students and it's like some guy who worked very hard and then he saved a lot of money and then he buys a ticket to go and see a cricket match, and then there's somebody who is very loyal to his boss and he's a corporate guy, CEO, so he gets some complimentary passes and then he gives one of it to his driver or cook and they go and watch the cricket match sitting in the lobby. The cost of the ticket would be several thousands. They go and watch it for free. Similarly, the one who is very loyal to God creates conditions for him to get the benefits of punya karma he hasn't done. Then how you can give any good karma? You have already mentioned earlier that I don't favor or disfavor anyone. It's your karma according to which I give results. Yeah, the Sravana itself is the greatest karma. And therefore, you don't have to do puja and this and that. What Bhagavan prizes here is clearly mentioning is actually your love for him. That is what is paramount in his mind. ज्ञानवतस्तु किम वाच्यमिति भावः. जो सुनकर फिर समझता है और समझ भी जाता है और सुनता भी है उसके बाद, उसका क्या कहना? He definitely enormously benefits because he gets साक्षात मोक्ष. शिष्यस्य ज्ञानोत्पत्ति पर्यंतम गुरुणाम कारुणिकेन प्रयासः कार्य. If somebody is actually teaching and there is a good student, the teacher should all the time keep in mind whether the student who is listening adequately understands or not. So Bhagavan is a Parama Karunika, is very compassionate. So he is asking Arjuna now in the next verse, क्या आपने सुना, क्या आपको कोई फायदा हुआ? That's he's going to ask. इति गुरोह धर्मम, गुरु की यह धर्म है, शिक्षयितुम सर्वज्ञोपि, जबकि वो जानते हैं अर्जुन को समझ में नहीं आया, इज a सर्वज्ञ, so he can know, like mother knows whether the child is hungry or not. Still the mother, in a very ritualized manner, compassionately, the mother says, beta, you want to have some chocolate? Would you like to have a muffin, or you want to have a cake? Because she knows the boy has come back from school, looks a little distressful, maybe didn't score very high in the class test or something. So she just pats the son and asks these questions. She knows what's wrong with her son. But see, by saying this, she's kind of training her son to express his feelings. Otherwise, the boy will remain glum and not express himself. Similarly, it's always a duty. It's not so much in Indian tradition, but in the West, anybody who comes and gives a talk or something, and they will say, "Do you have any doubts? Or do you have any questions to ask?" And I think that's a very important part of any conversation. And this is also in our parampara. But now it has become a little authoritarian. Somebody comes and gives pravachan and walks off, and people clap. Because there are too many people, so there is not much room for question answer. They specially keep question answer sessions. Okay. Kaschidethat sritam partha त्वेकाग्रेण चेतसा कच्चिदज्ञान sammoha pranastaste dhananjaya. So these are the questions the teacher has for the students, because Bhagavad Gita is coming to an end. So he's saying, my boy, was this whole long lecture that I gave you, could you listen to it carefully? Why? Because this is a war field. And he's anxious, he was depressed, and Bhagavan went on giving big, long speeches, long lectures. He just asked a simple question, tell me what to do. A normal cricketing coach or football coach, what does he say? Go to that corner, play that shot, this kind of advice they give. So it's clearly not guidance given to a soldier by a general or by a mentor. It's a very metaphoric thing. This is given to a person who is looking for truth in life, who is looking for self-realization. No long speech is given like this to anybody. If anybody is given such a long speech, he'll lose his interest and walk away from the war. Anyways, so this is for the war of life, the whole battle of life that all of us fight. So he's asking, could you listen to it carefully, O Partha? So yeah, was it heard by you carefully, with concentration, without distraction, ekagrana chetasa, and with conscious participation? Kachit ajnanam samoha pranashtaha, because you had asked, because you had a few doubts. You had a doubts about whether to fight the war between jnana and karma, which one is the superior path, and tell me which is the ultimate thing I must do. Please don't confuse me. These are the questions you had. Then you had a long moral compactions and moral dilemmas, whether to hit at the teachers and the friends and the relatives, why to fight the war, when some of your own relatives who are on your side might actually lose their lives. So these questions he had, and therefore he's saying, please tell me, my boy, has your doubt been destroyed? Your dilemmas, your confusions, are you done with it? Hey Dhananjaya, because you are a brave guy, so please tell me. His two words mentioned, Partha, because he's relative, and then mother of Kunti, who is herself a great enlightened woman, and then Dhananjaya, he has enormous a purity of consciousness. So these questions he's being asked. Kachid iti prashni, in this question, Etan maya uktam, Bhagavan is saying, these all I have told, Gita Sastram, ekagrena vyasanga rahitena. Vyasanga is what? Asanga, all kinds of attachment, and vyasanga, the mind is pulled around by different kinds of causes or objects of desire. Chetesa he partha tvaya king shrutam. Could you carefully listen? Why is he asking about concentration? Because without concentration, this deeper secrets of life can never be properly appreciated. So he's saying, were you careful? I have mentioned, but this will not make any sense to you unless you have carefully heard me. So, arthataha avadharitam. Carefully, have you carefully heard? So, what is the intention? He's trying to understand. Could you get the message? Next. Kachid kim ajnana sammoha ajnana nimitaha. Ajnanat sammoha. He's mudha. He's blinded. He's depressed. He is caught up with the darkness of depression and anxiety and apprehension. And why is that apprehension there? Bhagavan has clarified. because you have not understood what is Atma. Atma is eternal. This body will die, it will come back again because the karma cycle goes on. Either way, you cannot do much. What you can do, you can decide to come out of it. What is the process? You have to do niskama karma, you have to do upasana, you have to do pranayama meditation. You have to understand the three gunas and how they influence your activities. So he's given a long speech. He has mentioned a lot about the jiva, he has explained the jagat, and he has explained the Ishvara and the Vibhu, the Vibhuti of the Ishvara, his manifestations in all forms of excellence and beauty and everything. So this is a comprehensive thing. You don't have to read anything if you. I personally think that if a person can actually grasp all of Gita, there is a great book which is written where Mr. Jacobi has worked on it, where he has actually linked each and every sentence of Bhagavad Gita with different Upanishadic statements. And there's a big book. He worked on it for 2 decades and has published that. And his daughters were very unfortunate because he had bright daughters, didn't let any of them get married. The younger daughter escaped his attention. He made use of his daughters. He was in Pune. He became a Sanskrit teacher. He had become a soldier, but he became a Sanskrit teacher. He lived in Bombay and Pune, and he made use of his daughter's time to do enormous amount of research into Sanskrit texts throughout his life. In old age, he returned to England, but by then he had produced hell of a lot of work. And unfortunately, the daughters were not allowed to marry because the father was very domineering. He made use of his very studious and intelligent daughters to do this research work for him. He used to make use of he used to write small slips and they used to organize, and whole life they worked with him like academic assistants, research associates. So he's written that concordance in Bhagavad Gita where he's linked. So this Bhagavad Gita is very loaded with a lot of Vedantic and very Upanishadic insights and messages. Therefore, it requires a lot of careful attention. Much of the confusion in all of us, as in case of Arjuna, is born out of ignorance. What is ignorance here? We are not fools. Ignorance is inability to appreciate the way things are, to have a realistic understanding. There is something called truth or truth proposition, what is apparent, what is real, blah, blah, blah. But there is something paramarthata satya, the real, the eternal, and the actual and the phenomenal. They are all different levels of reality. So the real secret, if you know, then you are not flabbergasted watching whatever is happening at an actual level. So this sammoha viparjaya, this mithya jnana, this faulty understanding, Agyana nasad pranashtaha, because your ignorance has been removed with these lectures. So are you out of that depression? He's asking. Prakarshanina punaha utpati virodhitvena. Prakarshana, why pranashtaha? If you have chopped a tree but you haven't actually uprooted it properly, then again it will grow. Now, if in samule nasa, if you actually, along with the roots, you uproot the whole plant of agyana, ignorance, then you are free from it. So there is no punar utpati. Again, it doesn't rise to confuse you. Nastahate tabahe dhananjaya, has it been destroyed? Yadi syat, agyana syat, samoha syat, is still something left in you, some confusion, some apprehension, some fear. Punaha upadesam karishyami iti abhipraya. Then I'll explain to you again. So he's a very kind, attentive, responsive, and very empathetic counselor of Arjuna. And this is a model of counseling, which for managers and elders, it's mentioned here. What Arjuna says, Evam Prishtaha, when he's asked like this, Kritarthatvena, he's very happy. He's realized, he's achieved the goal of this whole dialogue. Punaha upadesa anapekshyatam atmanaha. So he knows that he doesn't require another round of lecture because he has benefited from this very great intensive lecture on different aspects of Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara, and what is moksha, what is ajnana, what is jnana dasa, and what is sadhana, everything. Arjuna is very happy, and how does he respond? He's saying, Nasta moha smitir labdhva tvat prasadan maya chuta titosmi gata sandeha karishye bachanam tava nastu moha. My mudhata, my anxiety, my depression is gone. I was obsessed. What is depression? It's a certain obsession with a negative thought or something. So there's an anxiety. What if this happens? It's called local dysfunction of the brain, neurosis. It's a local dysfunction. When it is organic, it becomes psychosis. So there's a particular blockage. There's a blockage of the mind with regard to one particular area, and one is not able to resolve it. Then he goes to a counselor, spiritual advisor, whatever. So he listens to himself through dialogue and discussion, and then he declares, yeah, I'm out of it. He starts his life afresh. Similarly, Arjuna has successfully undergone the therapy here, which is the Vedantic therapy, and he's saying, yes, sir, my ignorance is terminated. And then I've remembered my Swarupa. Smritira Labdva, I've got it now. He had read it, he had not fully appreciated, now he's got it back. Tvat Prasadan, because of your compassion, because of your kindness, my dear sir. Maya Achyuta, this is, Smritira Labdva, Mama Moha Nashtaha. So, and Tvat Prasadat Maya Achyuta. So, mere dwara smritir labdva stuti ko prapt kar, this moha has been terminated. Sthito usmi, and I am now in a lucid state. I am now established in equanimity. Because he had asked this question, Sthita Prajna se ka bhasha. Now he's saying Sthito usmi, so I'm Sthita Prajna now. He's kind of very happy. Gata sandeha, jiska sandeha chala gaya. He is Gata sandeha, is Bahubri here. So sandeha गतो यस्मात्, जिससे चला गया है, और विगत संदेह यस्य गत संदेह, तो संदेह चला गया, so is no more having any doubts. Then what? Karishya vachanam tava, so I'll now follow your words till the end of my life, because all the questions you have solved, and that is the best thing that a student can ever aspire for. Nasta uchinno, they have been uprooted. Moho ajnana kruta viparjaya, the faulty understanding born out of ajnana, avidya, which is without a beginning. Tatra tannasakam aha, and what destroys that ajnana? Because this ajnana, tannasakam, so that ajnana nasakam aha smriti labdva. So ajnana has been terminated, and I have reminded, I have found my password to my self-realization. I found that ship where all the beautiful things that I had studied but I had forgotten, the real message therein, now have remembered. Tvat prasadan maya. So I was able to do it because of your help. Yasmat tvad upadesat atma jnanam labdham. And I've got my self-knowledge because of your help, because of your advice. Sarva sansaya anakrantataya praptam mataha. So now there is no further doubts remain. I have left behind, I have surmounted, I have crossed over, I have overcome all the doubts. Praptam, so I have got that niratisaya atmajnana. Ataha sarva pratibandha sunyena. Then all the obstacles for right conduct, for right knowledge, these obstacles have been removed. Atmajnanena moho nashtaha. So what is the obstacle for right action, right kind of understanding? Faulty understanding. These faulty understandings have been removed because there was some sort of a virus that has been removed. That virus name is called avidya. He achyuta atmatvena nishchitatvat. Now he's addressing Lord Krishna as achyuta. Why? Now he studied Vedanta, and that atma is achyuta, achala, achaloyam sanatana. Therefore he's asking, because there is no, that Bhagavan is everywhere. He cannot be chuta, he cannot move anywhere. He's everywhere. So where does he move? Biyoga ayogya smritiri lambhe. So there are two kinds of memories. So certainly you remember something, but you may forget it again. Okay. But once you learn how to swim, you don't forget it. Once you learn how to use a bike, you don't forget it. Similarly, once you know who you are, you don't forget it. Because of some sort of amnesia, you had forgotten who you are. So, Vyoga Ayogya Smriti. Vyoga Ayogya means again it cannot be lost. That is the beauty of this whole message. That Vyoga Ayogya is incapable of being lost again. That is Oporoksha Jnana. You have directly got it. This not Poroksha Jnana, that you may again get confused. But he has got direct understanding of it. Sarva Granthinam Bri Promoksha iti, all the nuts, Vidyante Sarva Granthani, that Siddhyante Sarva Sansayaha. So this particular thing, that it destroys that knot of ignorance. Iti Srutyartham Anubhavan Aha. So he understands this. And then he says, Stitoshmi. Now I am Sita Prajna. I am established in myself. Gata Sandeha, Nibrita Sarva Sandeha. All my doubts, all my confusions are removed. Stito Asmi, Yuddha Kartavyata Rupe, Tvat Sasane. Because you have advised, now I know what is my right action. I started this war because I had to assert my human rights, my rights to my estates, and my right to connect with my people. Now I'll fight for it's a just war. I'm going to fight. Now, this is the particular context. What is the universal context? In life, suddenly we got depressed and confused because of whatever problem. Forget about the problem. These problems will be always there. But the loss of momentum or motivation in life, that is the problem. Now, this motivation comes back. What was the problem? There was a heartbreak, somebody dissed you, you lost some money, there was an accident, a health problem. That is irrelevant. Once you have restarted your life, all these things are past the history. There's no relevance of it. You might write in your diary. You can't forget it. Don't have to think about it at all. You have gone beyond it because of whatever you have, sort of you have re-established your integrity with yourself, and then there is not a problem. So he's saying, so that's sasana, because of your advice, now I have found out what's my right conduct, and I'm going to follow that. Yava jivan cha karishe. So I'll do it so far I'm alive. Vachanam tava bhagavatah paramaguruho agyam. So this is the advice of the Paramaguru, Guru of all the Gurus, Sakshat Yogeshwara Krishna. Palayishyami iti, and I'm definitely going to follow whatever you have said. Prayasa safalya kasanena Bhagavantam Arjuna Paritosaya Masa. So by saying that I am going to do this, he is assuring his teacher that your labor hasn't got lost. When children grow up and they tell their parents, please don't get confused, I'm not going to do that. I know how much you have cared to raise me. The parents will really reassure that my son is still on track, my daughter is on track. If there is some kind of a rebellious, rambling, they forgive it because they want to find out. The boy or the girl reassures the parents, Papa, don't worry. Whatever might happen, but never ever think that I'm stupid. You have raised me, and I definitely have a chance to understand which you have explained to me. The father is very much reassured. Similarly, he's reassuring Bhagavan, the teacher. Anena Gita Shastra Dhyayano Bhagavad Prasadat Avasyam Moksha Phalaparyantam Jnanam Bhavati iti Shastra Phalam Upasangritam Tad Ha Asya Vijigya Vitivat. So he's saying, this is how Bhagavad Gita, the whole dialogue comes to an end. That the way Arjuna understood, we are also listening to it, and we are going to also benefit the same way. At the end of it, that is what is mentioned. Samaptah Sastrartha Katha Sambandham Idanim Anusandadhanaha. So now what is the context in which it has started? So he's going to, because Sanjay was listening to it and he was narrating the whole story to Dhritarashtra, so there's going to be a bit of a dialogue regarding that. There is some stuti of this Gita Shastra by the witness who was listening to it. And through Sanjay, actually all of us are represented. Because we are not the direct student of Bhagavan, but we are listening to it by reading the text. So we are still connecting with Bhagavan. Sanjay Uvacha Ityaham Vasudevasya Parthasya cha Mahatmanah Sambadamimam Ausrausam Adbhutam Romaharshanam Iti Aham Vasudevasya. ऐसे मैंने वासुदेव कृष्ण जी के Parthasya Mahatmanah. So this sambada, this dialogue, I listen. Sambadam imam asrosam, I have heard. And he's very proud, very happy about it. He heard this story, this dialogue between Vasudeva and Partha Arjuna. Adbhutam, unimaginable. He had never heard this kind of a dialogue. He had met a lot of professors, many gurus, many acharyas, Bhishma, Kripacharya, Drona, etc. Nothing of the sort, not even 1/1,000,000th of the insight which he heard right now. And therefore, Roma Harshanam, his hair is standing at the root, he's sort of, as they say, that he's completely excited. He's overwhelmed with a sense of happiness and fulfillment. Adbhutam chetaso vismayakhya vikarakaram. It creates a sense of wonder in him. So suddenly, yeah, you see you wake up and you're going to the sea beach early morning. The sun arises. You are a long journey, and you see that beautiful red sun arising, and you see the splendor of nature. You are a little stressful. You forget everything. You relish that sense of wonder. And as Krishnamurti used to all the time emphasize that being like a child and to connect with nature and appreciate the splendor of nature, that helps us recover the beauty of our inner nature, the aesthetics. And he said that you need some kind of a freedom from the known. The known here is all past sanskaras. Because Arjuna is saying, I have got back my memory. Is Krishnamurti and Arjuna are contradicting each other? No. When we remember our real nature, that is one kind of remembrance. When we have loads and loads of sanskaras and all kinds of lectures and this and that, and that's another kind of remembrance. Here he's talking about a very superior remembrance of the inner self. So this guy is very, very excited. Lokeshu asambhavyamanatvat, because in generally in the normal space and time in which all of us are moving, it's not easy to get hold of a teacher who so beautifully explains the meaning of life. Romaharshanam sarirasya romanchakya vikara karam. So, Romaharshana is what? That your hair grow, as they say, that you have the sense of beautiful, you have the sense of transcendence, boundless love and boundless. You have this moment of epiphany, that moment of eureka, I have got it moment, oho moment, that aha moment as they call. And that sort of fills you with a sense of fulfillment and happiness. Tena atiparistushtatvam vismayasya darshitam spashtam anyat. He's saying, end of the day, it's a great sense of satisfaction. In the classroom, let me just, you remember your school days, there's a particular mathematical problem and you have been trying to solve it on your own. You're not being able to do it. You ask a couple of other friends, they can't do it. And then suddenly you go to the physics teacher, he says, this problem I can't solve. He said, so what's the problem? He says, so what did you do? I did this. Now, yeah, but did you look at this aspect? No. Try doing it and suddenly it's solved. He enables you to feel so good because he's trying to help you understand you're capable of solving it. You just had forgotten to introduce a particular thing. One step, you missed it, and therefore the whole thing appears very difficult for you. Once you are reminded of that step, then everything falls to place. That's what the Bhagavan has done in Bhagavad Gita. Vyavahitasyapi Bhagavat Arjuna Sambhadyasya Sravana Yogyatam Atmanah Aha. Now Arjuna directly heard it from Lord Krishna. Sanjay hasn't. Sanjay was sitting at a remote location, like we watch it on cricket match, we watch on TV, or watching a parliamentary debate on TV, or you listen to a press conference of the president. Okay, and they have these press conferences, whether you or this guy from Ukraine or the American president or the Indian parliament or Pakistani parliament, all of these things are available to you. Remote control, like Sanjay was accessing the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita. So he's also glorifying it. So Sanjay is saying, Vyasa prasadat srutavan imam guhyamaham param yogeswarat krishnat sakshat katayatah swayam. Vyasa prasadat srutavan imam guhyam aham param. Because what the story is that Vyasadeva had given this Dibya Chakshu to Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra wanted to see what's happening there. Vyasa gave him the Dibya Chakshu so he can find out what's going on in the Mahabharata pit. So he puts that particular goggles and he can see all that. And there is a screen over there. There's a TV screen. You can watch everything. Vyasa prasada srutavam, and I was able to hear it. Imam guhyam, this guhyam, sastram, imam, aham param, and this is param guhyam, and I have been able to hear it. Yogam yogaswarat krishnat, and this yoga, this whole yoga sastra, parama yoga sastra, where did I hear it from? From Yogeshwara Krishna, the chief among all professors, the professor of all professors. I heard it from him, Krishna. Sakshat Kathayataha, who directly said it. To whom? To Arjuna. And I heard it. Swayam directly has mentioned it. Now here, There's some kind of a, there'll be some emotional pain in the students of Bhagavad Gita. How lucky was Sanjay? But we are not having that access to what's going on between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. We have some text to read, and somebody from whom we sit and hear, but then we have to do mananam, and then God sort of enters our consciousness, and we understand, we comprehend it better. Vyasa datta dibya shakshu srotadi labha rupat. So he could, I mean, if you only has dibya shakshu, he will see. So it will be like a silent movie. So he also had dibya shakshu. So you can also follow the sound bites. Labhat vyasa prasadad imam param guhyam. Some people write idam, and Shankaracharya says imam. Idam because guhyam, yogam, this is all in. So some people say idam, some people have mentioned as imam as a pullinga. Imam param guhyam yogam. Yoga avyavichara avyavichari hetu. So why it is called yogam? Because this is the right kind of a process to enlighten oneself. Sambadam Yogeshwarat, from none other than the master of all yogas, Krishna Swayam. Swena Parama Ishwarena Rupena Kathayataha. He himself has said this. He was not reading from any book. He told the message directly. Sakshad eva aham shrutavan. Directly I've heard it because of this special access. Visually and audio access and visual access. Shrutavan asmi. Na paramparaya iti. Not indirectly like we are doing, all of us. Sobhagyam avinandati. So he's saying how lucky I am. Atra imam iti pulinga patho bhasyakaraihi vakhyatah. He says imam, that is pulinga. Etad iti napunsakalinga pathasya eva yoga sabda samanadikaranena. So if you add it to the yoga, is samanadikarana, then napunsaka vakhyanam idam iti tad vakhyatarha. Certain other people have mentioned like this in academic form. Then Sanjay is again saying, Rajan sangsmritya sambadam imamadbhutam kesavarjunayoho punyam rishyami cha muhurmuhu. Then he's saying, oh Rajan, my dear Arjuna, the emperor, for a few more days. Sangsmritya, I remember that again and again because the Gita dialogue has come to an end. The war has started. This is perhaps on 7th or 8th day he's telling all this to, um, to Yudhishthira. Already this war has started. Now he had heard all this, he's narrating. So he's now remembering all that, and he's saying, Sansmritya, Sambadam, this dialogue, Imam Adbhutam, this great and surprising, this is a wonderful dialogue that I heard. Of whom? Arjuna and Kesava, Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Punyam Hrishyami cha Muhur Muhu. This Adbhuta Sambada, which is Punya Swarupa, very auspicious. I remember it again and again. I feel elated. Punya Shravanena api sarva papa haram. Because Bhagavan himself said, ये बात को कोई सुन भी लेता है और समझ भी लेता है, then he gets all the punya phalas of doing lot of sadhanas. So Shraddha Samahita Sravana is as powerful as dhyana and adhyayana and all that. Average people don't have access to all this, but their great love for it has a great transformative impact on their lives, and they also benefit enormously out of it. So Punyam Shravaninapi Sarva Papaharam Kesavarjunayoho Imam Sambadam Adbhudam Na Kevalam Shrutavan Asmi Kintu Sansmritya. Not only have I heard Sansmritya, Sambhrame Viruktihi. Sambhramta Purvak, Sunte Sunte, again and again he's mentioning. Muhur Muhu, Varam Varam, again and again. Trishyami, Harsam Prapnomi. He's feeling elated again and again. So Pratikshanam, Romanchita Bhavami Ityartha. Romanchit, he's feeling super excited. Then again, he also remembers not only the Gita Shastra, also Bhagwan's Saguna Rupa in the Vishwarupa Darsana in the 11th chapter, that also he mentions. Yad Vishwarupakhyam Sagunam Rupam Arjunaya Dhyanartham Bhagavan Darsayamasa. Bhagavan showed his Saguna Rupa so that Arjuna can also do meditation. For dhyana, you need alambana, whether it is Saligram or Shivalinga or Kali, so you or your Guru's picture, you put it, then dhyana happens. You need a dhya vastu. निर्विकार ध्यान नहीं होता है, विचार होता है. So you can do maximum Omkara. That is also some kind of a Saguna. But once you drop, you go beyond that Omkara, then you have to do Vichara. There is no Dhyana. That Dhyana itself will become analytical. So that then he's mentioning that again. Tatcha sangsmitya sangsmitya. Tat means what? Vishwarupam. Tatcha sangsmitya sangsmitya. Rupamathyadbhutam hare. Vismayo me mahan rajan. Rishyami cha punah punah. Tat. Tat Vishwarupam cha sangsmitya sangsmitya. You know, it was a great Vishwarupa where Arjuna got frightened and said, you again become normal, Vishnu. I cannot take it anymore. Rupam Ati Adbhutam Harihe. Ati Adbhut Roop of whom? Lord Krishna, of Hari. Bismayomi Maharajan. What a wonderful sight it was. Yudhishthira is blind. There is a symbolism here. He's blind. What does it mean? Not physical thing. His inability to appreciate truth. So he's repeating. The vision of God is enormously exciting. But to the guy who is blind to this, who is having a closed mind, then Vedanta will not make any sense to him. Nothing will make sense to him. He'll find faults with everything. Rajan Krishyami cha punaha punaha. Tad iti vishwarupam he Rajan mama mahana vishmayo. Then you know he has given great sense of wonder. Atha eva Krishyami cha aham. Again, spashtamanya. He also says how, you know, it's quite possible that during our lives, it's not that everybody is bereft of any spiritual experience. Suddenly, you may have a fractions of a second of an epiphany, a connection with the divine. Lord doesn't appear in a physical form, but He gives you these symbolic messages, and it could be a dream, could be one dialogue, could be a sudden moment of connectivity, but that you value lifelong. These things don't happen every day, but they became your capital for carrying forward the journey. And you remember it and you feel great about it. It could be in your childhood, it could be in your teenage. So these moments of spiritual epiphany, they have great ability to transform people's lives. A lot of research is going on even in the amongst the experts of silence. What are the transformative spiritual experiences? And they find that there are sudden, it's like a jolt that comes and suddenly overpowers a person, and then his mind goes topsy-turvy. Everything is upside down, and then they make sense of it, but they are completely different people in course of time. When it sinks in, they're completely different. And that's what is happening to Sanjay, because he not only was able to listen to Bhagavad Gita, but he also had Vishwarupa Darshana indirectly, I mean through remote access. Evam cha sati swaputri vijayati sambhavanam paritajya iti aha. So now he's giving a moment of reckoning, a moment of reality check to Yudhishthira. He's saying, please forget it, because you should go and immediately surrender to Lord Krishna and take his blessings, because you are not going to make it anyway, my dear friend. That's what Sanjay is telling him. Yatra Yogeshwaraha Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, Tatra Srir Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruvanitir Matir Mama. Yatra Yogeshwaraha Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, Tatra Srir Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruvanitir Matir Mama. So the last verse is always recited twice or thrice in our parampara, because then you understand there is a samadhi over there. So yatra, wherever, yasmin kshetre, yasmin kale yatra. It could be time or space. Yogeshwaraha Krishna, wherever you have Krishna, now let's make it symbolic. जहां पे कृष्ण है और अर्जुन है, वहां पे विजय सुनिश्चित है. Now let's understand it in our context. We don't have Arjuna or Krishna in your life. Wherever you have that Krishna consciousness, wherever you have an opening to that spiritual being, whenever you have your heart open to divinity, you have right kind of understanding, there is it dawns on you, and then there is a right student. Your mind is able to recognize this internal message which is sent out by your inner self, the outer mind, the external mind, the intellect, the ego, the monomyoko, so the set of emotions you have. When you are tuning them to make sense of this inner call or this inner message which comes, don't do it. No, this is not what I wanted in life. You have these moments in life. Tatra Srihi Vijayo Bhutihi. So there definitely victory is assured. So whenever we have an integrity between mind and the heart, and then other things like our ability, the pranamaya kosha to execute it, the manomaya kosha to sort of align our emotions, and the body also cooperates, then obviously this person is fully in an integrated mode and he's going to do maximum progress. Dhruva nitir matir mama, and I'm quite, this is my mind, and I'm quite, I'm quite confident. Why is he so confident? Because he saw that, he listened to this whole dialogue, and his doubts have been removed. He is the second beneficiary. Or it was meant for Arjuna, but actually it was meant for the whole universe. And the first guy other than Arjuna to benefit from it is Sanjaya. So Sanjay is just a lucky guy because of his Purva Punya. He simultaneously was able to access this message and also visually access the Vishwarupa, Saguna Vishwarupa of Bhagavan. Iti si Mahabharate Saha Satasahasriyam Sanhitayam Vaya Bhisma Parvani Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanisasu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Sastra Sri Krishnarjuna Sambhade Sannyasa Yoga Nama Astadus Adhyaya. This is Mula. Now let's look at the Madhusudan Tika. Yatra Yasmin Yudhishthira Pakhe. So Yatra means what? In Mahabharata Chitra Kurukshetra. But it's life in all of us. Sarva Yoga Siddhinam Ishvaraha. What is Yogaswara? You have a lot of Yoga Siddha Purushas. And who is the master of all of them? Lord Krishna. Sarvajya, he knows everything. Sarva Saktihi Bhagavan Krishna, and he has all the powers. So Jnana Sakti, Kriya Sakti, Ichha Sakti. All these three Saktis are there in Maya, that is Bhagavati, Ma Kali, or whatever you call it. And using that Daivi Sakti, Bhagavan creates and maintains and also destroys. So Jnana Sakti, Ichha Sakti, and Kriya Sakti, all three of them, Sarvagyaha, Sarvasakti, Bhagavan Krishna, Bhakta Dukkha Karshana Tishtati. So he pulls away. In Bhagavata, Lord Krishna is considered to be a thief of butter. Do you know what is the symbolic meaning of butter? Butter is our papa. He's a papa chora. He loves us. So he's a thief. What does he steal? He steals our sins. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Lovely way to look at it. So this imagination is very reassuring. End of the day, you have a thief who visits you to take away things which are hurting you. So he's a papa chora. Tishtati Narayanaha Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara. And there is the student, this mind, which takes the signal correctly. Yatra Gandiva Dhanva Tishtanti Arjuno Naraha. So this human being who is having the skills and right kind of a mindset to take the advice and the directions and the guidance of the Lord of the universe. Tatra Narayana Adhishtite Tasmine Yudhishthira Pakhe. And definitely in this kind of a case, Srihi. What is Sri here? Rajya Lakshmihi Vijayaha. So he will get Rajya Prakti. That means he will also be professionally, materially successful. Satruparajita Nimitta Utkarsho. And then he will defeat his enemies. Now, symbolically, it is Kaurava in this text, but symbolically, all our adversaries, including our own nature, our relations, wherever we are finding ourselves weak, this weakness will go with God's grace. Bhutihi. What is Bhutihi? Uttarotaram Rajya Lakshmiya Vibridhihi. So then there is going to be expansion of the prosperity, the abundance principle with God's grace. So, अच्छी चीजें भी हो गई. Dhruva avasyam bhaviniti. Then he says it definitely is going to happen. Sarvatra anvayaha. So that you can add everywhere. Sri and Bhuti everywhere. That's going to happen all the time. Nitihi nayaha. This is what? Evam mama matihi nishchayaha. So this is what? This is the rule. I understand. This is what is my understanding. And please accept this. Tasmad Britha Putra Vijayasam Tyaktva. So, my dear king, forget about the fact that your sons are going to win this battle because you have Arjuna and Krishna both at the same place. They're going to win it. So, whenever there is human effort with the grace of God, that's going to win. So, there are adversaries. They should forget they cannot do anything. Bhagavat Anubhutehi, because he's having the grace of God. Lakshmi Vijayadi Bhag. Vihi, Pandavehi. So they are going to have this victory. And they're going to get this Rajya Prapti Pandavehi Saha Sandhireva Vidhiyatam. Please go and do a sandhi, a ceasefire. Don't fight. Have a compromise, negotiate, give away the 5 villages they were asking for. Give a little more, have good relations, and both can live. Some people have died, no worries. Going forward, we can have peace. Iti abhiprayaha. Now that is how he concludes the commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. Then we'll read a few verses he has mentioned in praise of Lord Krishna. Krishna, because he was a great Krishna devotee. He was from Bengal and he was a Vaishnava, later on studied Vedanta. We have 4-5 minutes. We'll wind up these few slokas he has written. Bansi Vibhushita, all the time holding this flute in his hands. Karat Navanita Navaniradabhyam. Navaniradhabham, that particular Navanirada Abhat, which is now describing his face. He is dark in color. Why Navanirada? What is that Navanirada? Niram dadati iti nirada, jalada, jalam dadati, jalada. So these clouds. Navanirada means the clouds during the month of Savan. They have a lot of water. That means grace. But these clouds become a little white when you go towards autumn. So Navanira means dark clouds, but also Faladai. They'll give you a lot of rain, so you'll have agricultural activities, etc. So he's very compassionate. Avat Pitambarat Aruna Bimba Phala Adhurushthat. And then this Bhagavad Gita has come out of what? He's narrating Bhagwan and his beauty. Pitambarat. He's wearing this yellow cloth. The yellow dhoti symbolizes Ma Radha, Radharani. Aruna Bimba Phala Adhurushthat. Very pink, beautiful, attractive lips he has. Punnindu Sundara Mukhar. And his face is like a luminous moon in the full moon night. Aravinda Netrat. And his eyes are like what? Aravinda. Like lotus-eyed person. He's a lotus-eyed person. Beautiful. कृष्णात परम किमपि तत्वम अहम न जाने. वो कृष्ण को छोड़ के मैं कोई तत्व को नहीं जानता. Now he's behaving like a very emotional bhakta, an emotional devotee. He says, all this I have mentioned. So far I am concerned with my personal life. I'm a great devotee. I don't know any tattva other than this beautiful face of Lord Krishna. I'm ever at his feet. Kandatrayatmakam Sastram Gitakhyam Yena Nirmitam. The one who gave to us this Gita Sastra, there are Kandatraya, 1 to 6 Adhyaya, Tvam Padartha. And then Tat Padartha, 6 to 12. And then Tattvamasi, that's Samanvaya, from 60, the 13th till the 18th chapter, Kandatraya. These 3 kandas, 3 sections are there. Or you have Karma Yoga, then you have Bhakti Yoga, 6 chapters, then you have, in the end, Jnana Yoga, 6 chapters. Gitakyam yena nirmitam adi madhyanta satkeshu tasmai bhagavati namaha. So you have the beginning and the end, and I am worshipping, I am at his feet. Sri Govinda Mukharavindam Adhuna Mishtam Mahabharate. So because of his words from his mouth, this is inserted in Bhagavad Gita. The whole Mahabharata has become sweet because of the presence of Bhagavad Gita. Gitakyam paramam rahasyam rishina vyasena vikyapitam. The Lord Vyasa has sort of has compiled these words of Bhagavan in Mahabharata, and therefore he's mentioning this Paramarahasya, this very top secret, is compiled by Vyasadeva with God's grace in Mahabharata. Vakhyatam Bhagavat Padehi, and the main source of my understanding of Bhagavad Gita is actually Sankaracharya, Bhagavat Pada, Sri Sankaracharya, Adi Sankaracharya. Pratipadam Sri Sankarakhyaihi Punaha Vispastam Madhusudanena. I have only repeated, I have tried to elaborate on it. Actually, he has brought in his own scholastic interpretation, one of the most original interpretations of Bhagavad Gita. But he is very humble. He's saying, Madhusudana has only simplified it. Munina Swagyana Suddhaye Kritam. I have not done it for anyone. It's only to understand it better that I had to write down what I have understood out of it. Yaha yo asti vimohayan manaha Paramanandaganaha sanatanaha gunadosha bhrit esa eva Naratruhnatulyo yad ayam swayam janaha. So he's saying what? That I am like a blade of grass. Actually, whatever you see, this is the grace of Lord Krishna. And because of him, there's some fault or anything, you get hold of him because I don't even exist. Because he's not having Kartura Bhava. So he's sort of surrendering everything. Sri Rama Vishweswara Madhavanam Prasadam Asadhya Maya Gurunam. So he's having his gurus now, he's remembering. Because you have Ramananda Saraswati, then his guru's guru was Ramananda Saraswati, and then Sri Rama, and then Vishweswara Madhavanam, all his gurus, he has listened to them. Bhakhyanam etad vihitam subodham samarpitam tat saranam bujeshu. I'm surrounding this text at the feet of them. So that is how it comes to an end. And iti Srimad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Sri Vishweswara Saraswati Pada Sisya Vishwa Saraswati ke direct hai. Sri Madhusuna Saraswati Virasitayam. Because the Dada Guru, the grandfather Guru is actually Ramananda Saraswati. Sri Mad Bhagavad Gita Gudhartha Deepikayam Sanyasa Yoga Pratipadanam Nama Astotara Adhyayah. Samaptayam Sri Madhusudana Saraswati Virasita. Now it comes to an end. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Gudhartha Deepika Tika. So it comes to an end. So Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Shri Guru Sharanam Hari Om. So it's been a very long journey. We started it almost several months back, maybe 16, 18 months. I don't know. There were breaks. But somehow we have brought it to an end, and it's very satisfying. But then with God's grace, we could conclude it. And I think I can. I was just thinking whether we could actually just keep these satsang. We want to do it every day, or it's going to put pressure on you. If you suggest we can just do it on weekend, maybe 2 days, because I think we can go into Upanishads, or you can suggest in the group whatever text, whether Vedanta Sara or Viveka Chudamani. But I think you could start Upanishads, because otherwise, what happens is Upanishads, if you do Swadhyaya, maybe we don't understand everything, but at least you complete, the course. It starts, and we could just do it on weekends or maybe 3 days in a week. But I look forward to your suggestions. I know that everybody has a lot of work to attend to. It started during the lockdown period. Every day, people were available. After that, they couldn't, and few have continued to hear. And so, God's grace on them and blessings. And so going forward, you please give suggestions. And I was thinking that in 3-4 days after Ram Navami, tomorrow is Sunday, on a particular auspicious occasion, we can start. We have finished Bhagavad Gita, so we can start the Upanishads Vadhyaya. And then once Upanishad is over, then Brahma Sutra, then Prasthanatraya is over. And so that will be interesting. Let's see how it goes. And I look forward to your suggestions. So let's do the Santi Mantras. And we can